Okay, let's get going. Hour number 2. Joel Skousen is stopping by this hour to share his views on the whatever it was last night. Joel, welcome back. How are you?
Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm actually quite invigorated by seeing all the shenanigans on the debate.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Shenanigans and then some. I just had two stories here. It was unprecedented. I guess that's the word, huh? One way to look at it.
Yeah, it really was, and it was really skewed against Trump. I could see why he was frustrated in the debate. You know, the moderator posed a question.
Let me say something, and then I'll get out of the way. You are correct, and that is one aspect that the liberal, leftist, progressive, Bolshevik press will not talk about. Trump had every reason to go off like he did. And I'm not saying one bad thing about either candidate here. I'm just saying human nature and the facts of the matter dictated that Trump had a right to lash out like he did. That's my view. Go ahead, please.
Well, you know, when I looked at the format of the debate, it was specifically skewed so that Trump would not be given time to counterattack or to respond to obviously false charges by Biden. Trump was given 2 minutes, so he gave positive things about this and, what we tried to do with COVID and everything. Right. And then Biden got his 2 minutes and he started making outrageous claims.
They truly
about
were.
Trump. And Trump just couldn't contain himself. But somebody said, but that isn't true, And Wallace would stop it, let him finish his 2 minutes. Do I get my time back? Biden would say. And at the end, Trump said, now I get to respond to those. And Wallace said, no, you had your 2 minutes. It was skewed every time because Biden would be giving his absolute falsehoods, blaming Trump for everything that happened in the COVID. It was the state governors.
They're just lies. He lied. Lie.
But Trump wasn't given any chance to respond. And that's not proper in a debate. It's one thing if you had debates in the old style, like the Nixon-Kennedy debates. When I was in high school, I remember very clearly they articulated long, very complex positions on very technical, economic, and policy issues, et cetera. There's no personal attacks, et cetera. And you can get away with position and then say your position. But when you have somebody sitting there and attacking you and saying, and then you don't give somebody a chance to respond, that's not a debate.
They were total lies, most of them. Some people can dismiss it as politics, but it was lies. And somebody lies about you like that on nationwide, worldwide television, you damn well should have a right to respond to it.
That's right. When you're slandered directly and libeled directly with lies, etc., that were completely untrue, and it was done specifically to enrage Trump so that he would come across as a bully, and that's how the media said, "Oh, he's a bully." But I saw it as he exercised significant restraint until, even to me, that's the breaking point. Sure enough, Trump would erupt and really go after him. But Trump didn't tell him to shut up, which Biden did. And Biden really gave the most insults and things in a very condescending way, which is going to irritate Trump. When you're that condescending to a guy who's, pretty tough. And so I felt actually that he had the much stronger response, and people, may not have liked it. I didn't like his defending of the COVID thing. I've always said in the World Affairs Brief he needed to attack this as an exaggerated thing, especially after Biden had said, 7,000 infected people. And some said, no, they were not affected. 90% of those were false positives. No symptoms whatsoever, not infected. Death rate oversubscribed by 90% as well. And so, he should have said that. He would have got tremendous applause from people. But he was on the defensive on that. And but he certainly didn't really take the blame for this.
I wish he would have said that. Well, maybe he'll learn. Biden looked like an empty suit for the most part. His face. Where's the life force in that person, other than the obviously probable methamphetamine, which is again the normal way to treat dementia and senility. It's common. It's been used since the 50s, and now we have 2 or 3 pictures of what appear to be wires and other devices, and I don't see why they wouldn't have given them to him. He refused to either have a drug test or be checked for earbuds or other electronics. Now, what does that tell you? There's only one way to read that kind of a response from the Biden camp. They've got something to hide. And I think it's pretty obvious. And if you look at the close-ups of his eyes, if you just fast forward of Biden's eyes, look, freeze the frame and look at him. His pupils were dilated. They look like black holes. It's a sign of chemical stimulation. So, yeah, all right. I don't know what's going to happen. He may run behind nutty Nancy's skirts and say, I'm not going to debate anymore. He's rude. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. But I don't think much was gained really by either party, all things considered. It was kind of like 99% of the people who had their minds made up. I don't think they changed their minds much. Do you?
No, I don't think that there was anything about the Biden performance that would cause anyone to switch their vote to Biden.
No.
I really don't think that the strength that Trump showed, which seemed to be very justified by the way that you're treating, if you had any sense of fairness at all, would have cast a negative vote. So, but it didn't harden people's positions, especially against Wallace. There's a whole internet meme out there trying to get Josh Rogan to moderate the next one.
Joe Rogan, yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe Rogan to moderate the next one. But
Wallace is so overrated as a journalist. I don't know where he comes. I guess they're doing it on purpose to build up a charisma about the guy, but he doesn't have it. He's weak. He clearly was advocating for one side. That's not journalism.
This is Mike Wallace's son. Mike
That's
Wallace was deep state.
Right.
And this is a guy who's also deep state, and to put him on Fox News to play this role as the moderate, neutral, and fishing around, he's always giving a sleight of hand against Trump, and it's just in the most insidious ways. You have to be fairly experienced in politics and in journalism to see the little slights that he uses. But this guy, is despicable, and I wasn't surprised at all when they picked him to moderate this because that was an anti-Trump move. And it's interesting that Wallace never brought up. He brought up all the sensitive talking points that would make Trump look bad. His tax return, which he went on and on about. But he never brought up BLM. He never brought up Antifa, which would have made Biden look bad to try to defend those things. Never brought those questions up. It was skewed from the very beginning.
Well, Biden lied many times. One of the biggest lies was when he said, I do not support the Green New Deal. Go to look at his website. It's a major plank in his whole position. He supports the Green New Deal. The guy, I don't know. He's mentally not capable. Hillary continues to love her, hate her, or could care less about her. She's very sharp. She's got her own podcast now. Still not sure what a podcast is. I guess it's a radio program. But she's pushing hard. She said something bizarre about Black Lives Matter. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, let me pull up the exact quote while I get this right. I've got it up there. Hillary, hold on a second. This is really interesting. Hillary, Black Lives Matter is a... Okay. She said, now this is Hillary Clinton. She said she views Black Lives Matter and says Black Lives Matter is a very profoundly theological statement.
I did see that. I remember that.
What does that tell us about? Yes. What does that tell us about Hillary?
Yeah.
Whoops. Hillary's Bolshevism slipped out there, didn't it?
Yeah, it sure did. Another part of the skewed debate was that, they went after, Trump and his tax return and said they never went after Biden for the Ukraine thing or the Hunter Biden cachet with China. They never went after Biden's use of an S-1 corporation to get around paying over $500,000 in payroll taxes using the tax law. Perfectly legal. But it was done specifically so that he didn't treat them as employees and get around that payroll tax, which is huge, 15% of things. But anyway, you have to know what the other side is, what he could have done to know how skewed Wallace's was against Trump by the nature. And then he had to come out and said at the end, none of the questions have been given to both candidates, he said. He didn't say either candidate.
I didn't say that again, please.
In the introductory remarks, he said this is going to be a fair debate. He said they're going to have set times for each one. And I want to assure you that none of he said the questions have not been given to both candidates. He didn't say either candidate. He said both.
Oh, I don't think that's good. That's not a slip. I mean, that is a slip. That was
very carefully crafted legal statement.
Correct. Yeah, agreed.
The questions were not given to both candidates. He should have said either candidate, and then he would have been caught.
No, he let that flop out there. That's I didn't see that. I didn't watch the beginning or the first hour. I just watched the last 20 minutes.
Incredible amount of time wasting stuff for the debate commission people having their day pontificating about the significance of the debates. I mean, these are all so biased and set up, against one candidate or the
other. Apparently, Donald Trump is still saying that a coronavirus vaccine is just weeks away. Nobody agrees with it.
The trials on all three major candidates have gone from bad to worse. How can it be ready unless they just whitewash it and say it's ready?
Right. They got into phase 3 and they fell into big trouble. It's just not going to happen. So, Donald, you got to give that up.
If it does happen, it's that they're just whitewashing the problems.
Oh,
and
agreed.
It makes it even more dangerous.
Dangerous. No chance. Yeah. Nobody should ever consider taking any of these vaccines. Not only are they not traditional vaccines in their composition, in their theory, and their development, but they're unsafe, unproven, untested, and anything can happen. You just don't know. Bad. Things here are bad, but things in Australia are even worse. You've been seeing, I'm sure, what's been going on down there in Victoria.
Yeah. Right.
Now, Australian state law empowers officials, meaning the cops, to forcibly remove people's underwear to administer vaccines. What kind of a planet is this?
When are the Aussies going to rebel against this? I mean, this is just real broad, bald-faced terrorism on the part of the government.
It's absolute terrorism. I don't know. It seems to me like it's a beta test they're running down there to see how much they can push people before people will stand up and do something about it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's the test Americans have failed about this mask hysteria and stuff. They just utterly failed the test to rebel against this. There was a city councilman, the son of a famous basketball coach, Danny Ainge. The son, Tanner Ainge, sits on the Orange City Council, and he pushed through a mask mandate. And one of my subscribers who has access, one of my subscribers goes up to interview him about why he's pushing this, and the guy's without a mask.
Unbelievable.
And, he spends 45 minutes with the guy's without a mask, and he finally asks him, why are you, sitting here talking to me without a mask? Oh, well, they're not really effective, and, it really doesn't, gets in the way of it. He had all these excuses that he denied when people would talk to them at the city council meeting. Talk about hypocrisy. It's Nancy Pelosi's hypocrisy and it's Barbara Boxer's hypocrisy. It just the left.
She went through, and was it Boxer or Feinstein that went through the airport?
Feinstein, yeah. Feinstein, yeah.
And she didn't have nothing. Look, I honestly think that most of them at this point who end up in that position of not wearing a mask, they know the game. They've been told. They all know. They just don't want to bother playing the game anymore. or they forget.
But
the only time.
But there's so many self-righteous people that run around thinking that you're a low
Those
person
people are
because
scary.
you aren't considerate of other people's health.
Yeah,
And not only they drink the Kool-Aid, they become self-righteous, pompous,
right.
idiots running around trying to criticize people. I tell them, no, I'm perfectly healthy. What threat am I to anyone? And what do they say? Well, it's the law. No, it isn't the law. In Utah, for example, the governor's in violation of the legislature who refused to extend his state of emergency. He did it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when people try to pull this, I said, no, sir, there is no state of emergency in Utah. It's patently illegal because the legislature refused to extend it. That shows how bad these Republican governors are that are going along with this stuff.
How many, I'm looking something up, how many cases of coronavirus in the U.S.? I just want to see what the official number is now.
Well, it's over 200,000.
Seven,
but they're not cases.
Yeah, no, those are fatalities, supposedly.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, that's right.
7.2 million alleged cases, right? 207,000 dead. And even the CDC admits that of that 207,000 alleged dead, only 6% of them only had coronavirus. They all had comorbidities, okay? Other factors. Right. And as we know, these hospitals are getting paid big money. If they simply diagnose or claim someone is diagnosed as being infected, they get $13,000. And if they put somebody who is allegedly infected on a vent, they get $33,000. And I think they get a death stipend as well. If somebody is their death certificate says, died, what reason? Coronavirus, or however they phrase it. They're doing that a lot. And I don't, personally, and I haven't for a very long time, trusted the official numbers at all. I think they're skewed. I think they're padded. I think they're largely bogus because many of the people who are claimed to have died of coronavirus were never tested. They're not even doing post-mortem testing on those who never really were tested. So if you want to buy into the 200, no. If you want to buy into that, dear friends, I don't think many of you will, but, good luck. So 7 million alleged cases, 7.26 alleged cases, million, in this country. We've got 330 million Americans, 330 million and 7 million alleged cases. Run the numbers on this. The odds... Go ahead.
It's even worse, though, Jeff. If 90% of those 7 million are false positives, it means we're talking 700,000, and of those 700,000, 80% didn't get sick from it.
That's
right. They may have had a little few symptoms that, could still be from the cold. It could be from, flu and other things, that very similar systems. But they've just put it all in one big batch, calling it COVID-19. There's been a downturn in reported deaths of pneumonia, downturn in reported deaths from the flu, downturn. What happened to those? Nobody gets the flu or pneumonia anymore? No, they're all lumped into COVID-19. It's just as bogus as can be.
I think, of course, I think that when you have over 1,000 doctors in Germany, and you have doctors here, and you have doctors all over the place stepping forward now and saying, this is ridiculous, it's wrong, the numbers do not warrant, and first of all, the numbers are bogus, but they do not warrant lockdowns, they do not warrant all the things that are going on here. 48,000 American college students have allegedly been diagnosed as having been infected. 2 were hospitalized out of the 48,000. This is a big story. It was out 4 days ago. And I believe it was no fatalities. But then there was one student who did apparently die. They say he died of coronavirus. I think it was one of the Big Ten schools like Michigan, something like that.
Yeah, but he was HIV positive.
Oh, Joel, thank you. I didn't get that. Thank you. Yeah. He had AIDS. Wow.
Yeah. And he had a compromised immune system because of the anti-AIDS drugs that he was taking, et cetera.
Oh, it could beat the hell out of you.
So there's comorbidities there. It wasn't because of COVID-19. Yeah.
No. So there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you put on that young man's death certificate? He had coronavirus, if they did indeed test him, and it was a correct, positive result. Or he died of factors involving HIV/AIDS. When you have HIV positive status, you have AIDS. That's the end of the story. You have it. And he was giving, I guess, as you're saying, he's been given the cocktail drugs that just beat the living hell out of your immune system. So, anyway, what do you put on the death certificate? If you get paid, you're going to put COVID-19. All right? If you have ethics, you're going to put you're going to explain it. He had HIV/AIDS. He was taking the cocktail drug treatment. His immune system was faulty. I don't know. This whole thing is so disgusting. It's been so weaponized and politicized and perverted, the entire thing. If there was really a problem about igniting a tremendous spread of this virus, I said in January, all Americans should have been immediately given N95 masks, taught how to use them, and wash your hands. That's it. That's all that had to have been done. Sweden has defeated it. Done. They didn't do anything. All right, hang on. Joel and I will be right back in just a minute. Okay, and welcome back. Where do we go from here? We've got 35 days, Joel, until the election. 35.
Let me just make a couple of comments on the Corona thing before we end that.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, it's not that a country defeats the virus. None of these methods really work very well compared to what the human immune system can do. These viruses deteriorate over time because they're not good at reproducing themselves inside the human cell. They always mutate constantly, and they get less effective. They get less deadly. One study said a little more infectious but less deadly. So the point is, the virus goes away over time, and it isn't just the heat, although that helps. They tried to debunk Trump on that. But the main point is, it's already been defeated in the United States by itself, not because of mass or social distancing, because the virus is no longer very effective. It's not dangerous to normal people. Never has been, in fact. That's why it's futile to shut schools, because the kids, aren't really at risk. And so, to force kids to wear masks, the good thing about it is driving millions of people to do homeschooling, which is very good. And the threat of a mandatory vaccine, anytime you go into a hospital, is going to make thousands of people go to midwifery instead of, having babies in hospitals. And the hospitals deserve it. But the point is that the virus has been defeated. They just will not admit it. And that's why they keep talking about testing infections. And they're not infections. The tests are 90% false positives. And of the rest, very few of them even get sick. So here's the point. It's been defeated, but they keep pushing. You notice they don't talk very much about the deaths. Occasionally they'll do.
Not anymore. No, the deaths are not talked about.
There are 1,000 new cases in Utah. They're not COVID cases because don't have any symptoms, so they're not cases. They don't say 1,000 positive, new cases, they say, but only one death. And, of course, that's it's still working under the exaggerated criteria of comorbidity, of putting anything where they test positive, which is a bogus test. Even the inventor of the PCR test, which is this polymerase,
polymerase chain reaction.
Yeah, chain reaction. In other words, you keep breaking down the DNA and you reform it, with a polymerase reaction, and you break it down and reform it, break it down, and you keep multiplying it and multiplying it. He says it was never intended to diagnose disease because it exaggerates what's there into levels that aren't really infectious. And he's absolutely right.
And this is the gentleman who's credited with creating it, the PCR test.
The Nobel Prize winner says it was never intended to diagnose because it multiplies and multiplies and gives you an exaggerated reading. It was done for, doing genetic studies, not for diagnosing disease. But the last thing I want to mention, there's only one major player of any renown in the world that I know of that is attacking this, and that's Elon Musk. He's calling a spade and saying, this is not a danger. Let me open up my plants. He's losing money because he can't work.
He knows. He's on the inside. He knows. He knows the game.
But everyone else is on the inside.
And they're not talking. I know.
They're not talking. But Elon Musk is fighting back, and I have to give him credit for that.
I agree with you. I think he's being very steadfast and honorable and brave about this. And he can take him out anytime they want.
He tried to move it. He's going to pull his factory out of California as soon as he can, but he tried to move it to a reasonable close place like Nevada, and Nevada governor said, no, you can't open here, and so he's stuck.
Well, see, Sisolak is, from all I've heard and all I've read, is a globalist shill idiot. He's just the worst. How these people get supposedly elected is beyond me. He's the worst, this guy, Sisolak. I just, all right. But before we go away from coronavirus, this has been used to do more damage to this planet than I think economically a world war. If you look at the totality of it, the damage in India, a country of 1.3 billion people, 1.3 billion, and on and on and on and on. It's a worldwide effort. We know what's going on. All of you know what's going on. Okay? So this is a big, big operation that was very well planned, like 9/11, but on a scale much larger. Every bit as fraud-oriented and hoax-oriented as 9/11. It's just disgusting. That was kind of like a I don't want to say beta test, but it was a first stage of this effort to overthrow the existing status quo, things that normal as we knew it, and replace it with the Great Reset and the new normal out of fear. And more people are waking up to the fact that this is it's a fraud. And your point is very well taken. The man who
I wish there were more. I wish there were more, Jeff. I'm really disappointed that it's still hovering. I think around 10% of people who really suspect this. There are just so many millions of people that are wearing masks and rattling their finger at other people's faces for not wearing a mask. Is just shameful.
I can't believe that. I haven't seen it. I don't go out much, but I'm sorry to hear it. It's very sad.
It's there, and it's just this self-righteousness, about we're taking the high road, by wearing a mask is just the height of idiocy. Whenever I see a person with a mask, I just see stupid written all over the face. I'll be very frank. They're stupid. I don't care how smart they are. They're stupid if they buy into this fraud, especially when you see, you just want to, do you know anybody who's died of COVID? Do you know anybody who's really sick from it? Not testified, but sick? No. Never seen anybody. Yeah. No. And anyone who has, they have plenty of comorbidity. Nobody who's walking healthy, and even people walking healthy are not necessarily healthy. If they've been taking the flu shot, they've got a damaged immune system.
The other part that's real sad is to watch how Google is overtly erasing history, rewriting it, but above all, censoring anything that doesn't fit with their party line. You can't find things. I can't find the interview with Dr. Judy Mikovits. It's very hard to find. The movie, Plandemic, the movie, very, very hard to find. And by design, they're afraid of it. I'm going to say one other thing about Dr. Luc Montagnier. He's a Nobel Prize winner. He was the one who discovered the AIDS virus. Fauci and his buddy Dr. Robert Gallo tried to steal credit for discovering HIV. It was not Gallo and Fauci. This goes way back. I was onto this in 1989, 1990. And Montagnier said the coronavirus was absolutely artificially created in a laboratory by virologists and biologists. He just laid it all out there. And yet he was ignored. They censored the story. Nobody really heard much about it, and it went away. But I was really proud of him for standing up and saying that. He was really the first one in Europe to do it. Okay? Dr. Luc Montagnier.
Europe is not under the tyranny of the U.S. AMA. The AMA is absolutely ruthless and governed by big pharmaceutical, controlled by big pharmaceuticals, and their protocols. I mean, doctors just can't get away with what they got away with in Germany. You'd never have 1,000 doctors in the U.S. bucking the system because they'll threaten them with their license, as they did Dr. Scott Jensen.
They'll kill a few.
Worse, but yeah.
Remember, they have killed doctors here. Remember all those naturopaths that were killed a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Right? What was that about? It was to shut them all up. The rest of you, shut up, shut up, shut up. French so-called experts, how about shills and dupes, have refuted the claim by their colleague and Nobel Prize-winning scientist Luc Montagnier that the novel coronavirus causing the COVID-19 plandemic has been engineered and contains some genes of HIV-1. Now, who would better know about the genetic makeup of any virus than Dr. Luc Montagnier, who discovered HIV? I mean, the guy's whole life professionally has been involved with the AIDS virus. He knows. He understands this. It's not to say anything bad about anybody else. It's just that Montagnier should have been immediately given the credit that he deserves in terms of his status, Nobel winner, standing up and making these statements. But what did? They just all but buried the guy immediately. Jumped on him and he disappeared from the news. That's how they do it. Same old, same old. All right, we've got 35 days. I can guarantee you right now that Antifa and BLM are being armed. You're not going to see them walking around with their long rifles and things, or their handguns. But any of these riots, I would say, for the last month, 40 or 50% of the most radical amongst them were armed at the time. But they are getting ready now to trigger a civil insurrection here. And I think the first target will be the police. They're going to try and kill cops to scare the rest of them, make a lot of them go home, take care of their families, whatever. As soon as the cops lay down and roll over and leave the inner cities become totally Bolshevik. It's over. That's how quick and how rapidly this could happen. 48 of the 50 largest cities in America already the scene of major looting, rioting, and burning. Go ahead.
Yeah. Don't forget the word burning, because that's what is going to be amplified, not just armed force and things, but they're going to be burning out cities.
Burn it down. They've been saying it. Burn it down. Burn it down.
Yeah,
what did that execrable, anyway, Don Lemon, he said, we've got to burn it all down. Then he tried to walk out of it a day later. He's a total racist, supporting of Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And if he were white, he would have been kicked out the door real fast. But he's not. So there you go. Yes, I concur completely. There were reports, they didn't make much news, that American commercial airliners were being stripped of their seats and loaded with firearms and brought in here from Italy. I can't prove it. I don't know. Is it true? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. But I think a lot of these radicals are going to end up shooting. And right after the election, the day after, when Trump says, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not conceding anything. This is going to the Supreme Court. Which brings us to Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Barrett. Amy Barrett is not the savior that a lot of conservatives who aren't in the know would like to think. This woman is a globalist. She is in favor of forced vaccine for coronavirus. What else, Joel?
Well, she has voted to sustain the pandemic, states of emergency by state governors in the district. Yeah. And she has voted against victims of vaccine abuse. She's voted against victims of pharmaceutical drugs in favor of the big pharma. She's voted, against the employees in court cases against any big corporation. And she's voted in favor of big government in every single case brought before. This woman is an establishment hack.
Every case. No,
and
she'll do exactly what she's told.
Attorney Robert Barnes, who litigates before the 7th District and has litigated before, and he's the one who's enumerated those things. This is not a conservative, and in fact, none of the conservatives, frankly, there's no strict constitutional conservative that could ever get on an appeals court. They can't even get nominated by a judge. The only conservatives that you ever had were judges that are very aged now, that were, put on the bench years ago by the few conservative governors that there really were in the South. But this doesn't happen. Mainstream governors, Republican governors who are mainstream, they never put constitutional conservatives on the court. And so they never arise to the appellate division either. And so this is a fraud. And Trump picked a woman just because he knew it would be easier to get past. And he didn't pick Lagoa, another woman judge from Florida, because she's the one who outed the Epstein papers. She let him go. She broke the seal on them, said the public deserves to see these.
She was a good one. She would have been a fine choice compared to what we have. She'll float through in probably record time. 54 days, I think it was the shortest or one of the shortest times of consideration before final confirmation. That was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. 54 days.
Yeah.
Well,
and of course she downplayed all of her radical stuff and thing, and Justice Amy Barrett doesn't have any radical thing they need to fear. Even though she's a Catholic, she's not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. She will call it settled law, like every other conservative, quote, conservative justice, implying that she will not try to overturn it. So forget about the hope of killing abortion. It's not going to happen.
No. Nope.
Let me just read you this quote from Robert Barnes. He said, Barrett sided with the government on almost every civil rights case, every big employer case, every criminal case, while also siding with the government on lockdowns, on uncompensated takings. That's a real no-no in my book, uncompensated takings by government, and not giving people the constitutional value of their property, and on excusing First Amendment infringements and Fourth Amendment violations. She's done it all. Just a yes woman to the establishment.
And yet we're not hearing this in the so-called media, and we should be. Her record should be right there, and laid out and explained for what it is and what it isn't. But we're not seeing that. No, this is not good. They'll vote.
And Trump will brag about it. I've been a critic of Trump, not because I'm not going to vote. I'm going to vote for Trump just to make sure that do my part to keep this radical Democratic agenda. Because I believe if Biden-Harris wins, Harris will become president, and I'll tell you, and Biden evaded this question in the debate, asked him directly, do you favor stacking the Supreme Court? And he went on some tirade about, you should all vote. No, and even Wallace, on the only time he's brought him back on something, he says, you didn't answer the question, and he wouldn't answer the question. And Trump even said he's not going to answer the question, and he didn't. They're going to stack the Supreme Court, and they're going to stack the Senate. I'll tell you, they will vote in D.C. as a state and Puerto Rico a state. They'll have 4 more senators, and will never win another election again. That's how critical this one is.
When Joel says we, he's talking about American patriots, constitutional patriots. And again, I would urge all of you to try to look at this election as a vote between the constitutional republic, what's left of it, of these United States of America, and the encroaching assault by Bolshevik Zionist communists. That's what the vote is about here. Forget the 2 players. They're not important here. It's just not. It's not run from the Oval Office like it used to be.
They are important in one thing. I have no illusions about Trump fulfilling his promises. He can't. Without control of the House, he just can't get to first base. And even when he does, he messes it up like he did with the USMCA. It was TPP
all true.
And dressed up in other clothing and things. And he brags about these great successes. So I have no confidence that he's going to actually drain the swamp. He can't tell the difference between James Comey and Christopher Wray, both of them deep state. But what he has done is slow down their agenda. That's why they want him out yesterday. He keeps changing his mind. He has to be convinced over and over again to go stay in Afghanistan, or to stay in Syria, or to stay in Iraq, and he keeps changing his mind. This slows down their agenda, and that's a benefit to us. It buys more time. So I'm telling you that
that's a good point.
Nobody else would do that. Trump is belligerent enough. And, he's not informed. He can't argue against them, but his instincts keep bringing him back to change his mind. And that slows them down. That's an important point.
Very big point. When we watched, and I think all of us knew relatively early on, the murder of Chief Justice Antonin Scalia, that was the end of the court. That ended it. He was a unique
I think he was
individual.
Yeah.
Oh, they put a pillow over his head and killed him right in his bed. They said he was sitting perfectly upright, almost like he was asleep. No problem, just laying there. Well, they arranged the bed and fixed it up. They pronounced him dead of a heart attack without even having seen the body, and then he was cremated. It's all. They kill people all the time. All the time. Really sickening. When you come out with... go ahead.
Let me just make a point about the election. There's more and more evidence coming out of voter ballot fraud.
Oh, huge.
Project Veritas has that video out of this guy bragging he's been paid by Ilyana Omar, and he's paying big bucks to go get ballots and fill them out for older people and to filch them. They have postal workers that work on the left that are deep sixing ballots in their area going to Republicans, a highly Republican area. And
correct.
There's a lot of ways that they can, there's
Omar
dumping of ballots. There's all kinds of things that can happen.
She should be in prison, and then she should be deported when her prison sentence is served. This woman is an absolute threat to this country, even in her own little backyard.
And I bet you, though, that no prosecution will happen. Look, Veritas has got the video. They've got the admission, talking about Omar paying off these things. And he even interviews a prosecutor who's a Somali in the police, and he says, we should do something about this. I bet you nothing happens.
I was watching that guy that you mentioned, the Somali, wondering if they were going to snuff him for what he said. He's took a little bit of a chance.
It depends on whether or not he intends to follow through with it. And I'll bet you he's just knowing who he's speaking to. Spoke tough about it, but in private he won't do anything.
Well, you saw his leg was twitching when his leg was jiggling up and down. He was quite stressed.
He was nervous.
Joel is the editor-in-chief of World Affairs Brief. It comes out every Friday. If you'd like a complimentary copy, just write to Joel at editor@worldaffairsbrief.com, and you'll get one this Friday. How are you going to handle this week?
Well, I'm going to talk about Barrett and expose that, and I'm going to make the major topic of this debate. I mean, this is very, very important to see how skewed, and so that people can see. I mean, this was important for people to watch. Everybody was complaining about the wrong thing. Trump's a bully. He was too aggressive. No, baloney.
They missed the point.
He was enraged by the way that they weren't allowing him to respond to these libelous attacks.
Gross, grotesque,
and
filthy lies. That's what they were.
Trump makes enough mistakes that they could have done something legitimate to blame on him. But no, they picked things that just would enrage Trump, and he did get justifiably mad about what was going on. He was frustrated.
I viewed it the same way. And look, we've all spent 3.5+ years exposing and talking about Trump's failure to follow through on his pledges, his promises. We know all that. It's not like we don't remember that. But the point that Joel just made is correct. Biden was throwing filthy, scandalous lies in his face, trying to piss him off. And he did. And that's what they wanted. And so they're trying to make...
When he tried to respond, Wallace cut him off. You can't respond. You had your 2 minutes. No. And Trump said it in a debate, I've got to have a right to respond to these charges. And Wallace would have none of it.
I wonder what they'll...
Just like his father.
Of course he is. I wonder what will happen next time. I wonder if they'll actually kill the microphone of the other party during response time. They'll just shut the mic off, like shut Trump's mic off, shut Biden's mic off, if there is another debate. That's about the only...
I doubt if they can get it. That is so insulting to a president of the United States that, boy, I'll tell you, there could be real repercussions. They might just get a backlash in Trump's favor if they did that.
I hope so. I think they would. I agree.
Yeah.
Did Trump make any big points at all?
Yeah, I think when he brought up the fact that Hunter Biden had received that $3.5 million from the Moscow mayor's wife, said, what did he do to deserve that? That made points. And Biden had no response.
He was also drummed out of the military because of his cocaine habit.
Yeah,
that was true too.
That's right.
And anyway, all right. Thank you, Joel, for being here. Appreciate the analysis as always. Talk to you soon. Be well.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, we'll be right back with the virologist of the hour, Dr. Henry Nyman, and the formal assessment of the pandemic as it is now. And we're headed, as you know, toward flu season just in a few weeks. So this could get very complicated very fast. And don't think it won't. I think it's exactly where it's headed. All right, we'll be right back. Hold on.